Welcome into part 2 of the Week 17 fantasy preview. I'm here to hopefully help you bring home the fantasy championship. For everyone, you should be into your last week, Week 17. Maybe you play into Week 18. We won't be doing a preview for Week 18, so this is our last preview. And yeah, hopefully either you're in Week 2 of your 2-week championship matchup, or you're in your, the first 1 week fantasy championship. Either way, we're here to help you. We're looking at 5 games. Again, this is part 2. Check out part 1. We went over the Lions, Cowboys, Dolphins, Ravens, Patriots, Bills, Falcons, Bears, Raiders, Colts in that video. Today, we got 5 more games for you. These are all Sunday games. I believe these are all Sunday morning games. There's 10 Sunday morning games. So by the time Sunday morning's over, or, if you're on the East Coast, I guess it's 1 o'clock games. By the time those 1 o'clock games are over, there's only going to be 4 more games left. So could be a lot of fantasy matchups wrapped up by the afternoon, the 1 o'clock slate or the morning slates. But anyways, if you're listening to this, thank you. Appreciate it. Like and subscribe. As always, we'll be here in the off season as well, giving you some advice to help you just make you a better fantasy player overall. So without further ado, we're going to start with our first matchup, the Panthers and the Jags. One of the lower over-unders of the year, of this week. Not of the year. We've seen some terrible over-unders this year. This one's 38 over-under. Jags are favored by 6. On the Panthers side of things, there's really only a couple players to talk about. One of them's Chuba Hubbard. And Chuba Hubbard, what he is at this point, is a low-end RB2. So I say that he's a start. I don't want to say must start, because you could have multiple guys ranked in the top 15, especially this year. But, for the most part, he's going to be started because people start 2 running backs. You play in 12-team leagues. It's 24. You know the math. But again, you're in the championship, so I expect you to kind of know at this point, if you have a really good roster, Chuba Hubbard's going to get, if you look at his game log over the last, since November 26th, so what is that, right after Thanksgiving, so I forget what week that is, but 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 weeks ago, what is that, since like week 12 or 11, he's had 19 total touches with 5 catches, 25 touches, no catches, 25 touches, 2 catches, 24 touches, 2 catches, hard to say, 17 touches, 1 catch. The guy's going to get probably 20 touches. I'm just confusing those words like crazy. 20 touches, a couple catches in there. Now, is he an explosive player? No, he's only been over 100 yards once. In that stretch where he's had basically 20 plus touches. I guess he had 100 total yards in week 12 or something. But anyways, he's not super explosive. It's a volume play. To me, he's a low-end RB2. Like, I'd rank him right in that Montgomery, James Conner, Zeke, Ty Chandler range. And any one of those guys could have better games. I'd probably play guys like Chandler and Monty over him, and Zeke. He'd probably be at the end of that. I'd maybe play Hubbard over Connor this week, given the matchup. So that's where you're at with him. And then the other player to look at, I'm not chasing the points from DJ Shark. He had a good game. Nice, but I'm not going to rely on that in the championship. Adam Thielen, to me, is a wide receiver 3. So I think we're disappointed in what he was to what he is now. Obviously, he was a stud to start off the first 6 weeks of the season. Since their bye, though, he hasn't had a game over 12.5 points in half PPR. And but if someone were to tell you, I'm just looking at since week 8, that was after their bye. If someone were to tell you in August or September before the season started and you drafted Thielen, they said, hey, Adam Thielen's going to be a top 36 wide receiver and he's going to average 9 points a game for you, and you're going to be able to flex him every now and then, you'd be very happy. So to me, Thielen, he's kind of a floor play at this point. He had 6 for 94 last week. Hasn't had a touchdown since October 15th. That's the biggest problem. But he's getting 6 to 8 targets. He's probably going to give you 4 to 6 catches, and he's going to give you hopefully 60 yards on average, maybe more, maybe a little less. Don't know if he catches a touchdown or not, but that's just where we're at with Adam Thielen. He's kind of a floor play wide receiver 3, not a whole lot of upside. He's in that Deontay, Drake London. Like, if you compare Thielen to Drake London, if you need a safe 8 to 12 points, start Adam Thielen in half PPR. If you need a 20-plus point game, I'd probably lean London because, to me, he's more likely to get it. So, again, I mentioned it a lot. You kind of just thank Thielen for what he did for you. He got you from weeks like weeks 2 to 7. The dude was awesome. I'm just going to double check real quick. Weeks 2 to 7? Oh, that includes a bye. So weeks 2 to 6. So 2, 3, 4, 5. So for 5 weeks there, he was the wide receiver 3. And hopefully you started him at least 3 of those weeks, maybe only 2 or maybe 4. Probably didn't start him all 5 because he had a terrible week 1. You thank him for potentially getting you 3 or 4 wins this year, which is huge. And, he is what he is now. So those are the only 2 players for the Panthers that I'm thinking about starting. On the Jags side of things, I'm not going to start Trevor Lawrence. He hasn't practiced yet. It's Friday morning where I'm at, just going on noon. Friday practice reports aren't in for most teams. We get updates right around this time, sleeper updates. This person's out, this person's out. Nothing on Trevor Lawrence yet. He hasn't practiced 2 weeks in a row. I want to say he's not going to play, but he's been injured like each of the last 3 weeks, and it looks like he's not going to play, and then he does play. So either way, I want to avoid him. The Panthers, for whatever reason, are really, really good against passing games. People say, it's because everyone throws on them. Maybe that could be true, or everyone runs on them. That could be true, but also I just think they maybe have a good secondary, and it's not a small sample size. If you look at the entire year, they give up the 3rd fewest points to quarterbacks. They've given up, and this is 4 point per passing touchdown. They've given up 17 or more points 3 times this year. Jared Goff, Tua, and Jordan Love. Now, all 3 of those guys had over 22 points. 27.5 for Goff, 22.5 for Tua, almost 24 for Love. But other than that, everyone else, and that includes, not a murderous row. Either way, not a lot of tough quarterbacks necessarily. I mean, there's Geno and Cousins are in there. Stroud was in there. Dak was in there. So some good quarterbacks, Baker, Derrick Carr. So all those guys got under 17 points. So I don't want to start Lawrence. I guess he could be injured. I don't even know if he's going to play, to be honest. So I just want to avoid him for as much as possible. I'd go guys like Derek Carr and Geno Smith over Trevor Lawrence for this week. And the ETN, this has to be the week. This is a perfect example of sometimes you really do have to look at schedules and sell guys high when you can. ETN is the RB4 on the year. Fantastic. His first 8 weeks were amazing. I think he was only behind McCaffrey the first 8 weeks. He's RB2 the first 8 weeks, averaged over almost 19 points a game in half PPR. Amazing. Since week 8, so week 9 and beyond. We'll take away week 9 because that was his bye week. So since week 10, he's been the RB24. He's averaged just over 9.5 points per game. So he's a full 9 points less per game, which is insane. And a lot of it's just the matchups. He had a horrendous lineup of teams that were really good against the run. Let me just double check. It started with, I believe, the 49ers, Titans, Texans are really good against the run. Played the Bengals. Browns are really good. Ravens are really good. Bucs are really good. So, yeah, he just had 6 of his 7 matchups were really bad. So, always look at that. Potentially sell high when you can on guys. Also, he's not necessarily a workhorse. We haven't seen him produce a full workload and be good for a full season. That being said, I really like him this week because the Panthers are a really good matchup. So I'm starting ETN, and for the most part, I'm starting Ridley in 3 wide receiver leagues. I'm definitely starting Ridley. 2 wide receiver leagues, it's a little bit more of a debate, but his potential. His potential is what he did last week. He has those boom games in him, and he did a decent amount of that with. He did a decent amount of that with Beathard. I think maybe he got a touchdown from CJ Beathard, and I don't think Beathard's just like this terrible backup we know nothing about. Like, he's a solid player. So we've seen from Ridley, we had 3 games over 19.5 points over the last 6. So that's his potential, and that's like week winning stuff. So 3 wide receiver leagues, I'm starting him, and Evan Ingram I'm starting because dude's a stud. So we'll move on to the next matchup. The Titans at the Texans. Excuse me 1 second. Titans at the Texans. Over under is 44. Texans are favored by 4. We'll start with the Titans, and it's really 2 guys we need to talk about here. It's Derrick Henry, who, again, like, the reason why if you survived the first week of the playoffs because with Derrick Henry's terrible performance and you started him, you were happy. To me, it's a volume play here. Like, he's a mid-tier RB2. Maybe I'd rank him in like the top 18 or so. And he's going to get volume for the most part. Now, could they be trailing in this game? CJ Stroud's back. Yes, they could. Can they keep it close? I do think they can keep it close. I don't think it's a guarantee they're going to be like losing in this game. Obviously, if they're losing, it's bad for Henry. He's in that mid-tier RB2. I'd start him over guys like Eckler, Ty Chandler, Zeke, Chuba Hubbard, David Montgomery. I'd start Henry over those guys just because I know they're going to give Henry, for the most part, they're going to give him close to 20 touches, and I'll take that from Derrick Henry. So it's kind of weird. Like, I feel like the consensus is like we're all kind of down on Derrick Henry. And then you look at the stats, it's like, all right, he's RB6. He's played every game this year. He's had 4 bust games. So like under like 8 points or so, 7, 8 points, 4 bust games. Out of the 15 games, he's had 4 bust games. He's had 1 meh game, and the rest have been really good, like over 13 points. So 5 games of maybe disappointment. So 10 games of like, all right, really good. That's still really, really good. Like, that's better than, what Jahmyr Gibbs has done. I know Gibbs has been a little bit more high-end stuff, but he had some bad games in there, or Breece Hall and stuff. So, Henry is what he is, and he's a mid-tier RB2 to me. And then the other guy is Hopkins. Like, I don't love – let me just check if Will Levis is going to – if Levis is playing, I like Hopkins a lot more. I'm just checking that right now. If he's Tannehill, I kind of in 3 wide receiver leagues, I'm still starting him. Levis is full practice, so if Levis plays, then to me, like, Hopkins is almost a must start in almost all formats. So you look at what DeAndre Hopkins, it didn't produce necessarily for fantasy every time, but you look at the 3 games before last week's game. 9, 12 targets. So I'm taking those targets, and to me, he's a wide receiver 2 if Levis plays. And then Chig Okonkwo, he's in that boat. He's been really good as of late. I think he's been like tight end 9 since like week 11 or something. To me, he's in that boat of 4. You hope for 4 catches and 50 yards, and if you get a touchdown, you're excited. He caught one last week. It was from Henry, but he still caught one. So, I believe that is all from the Titans side of things. For the Texans side of things, CJ Stroud is back, which is good news. Now, in terms of where I'm starting Stroud, he's coming back from a concussion. And obviously a serious injury, concussions are. But in terms of like limitations or worried about injuries affecting your play. I don't think concussions are along those lines. So to me, these are the guys I'd start over Stroud. Hurts, Dak, Josh Allen, Lamar, Brock Purdy, Patrick Mahomes, Justin Fields. I'd probably start Stafford over Stroud, considering how well Stafford's playing. And then the debate is between like Stroud, Kyler, Baker. I kind of like Kyler this week, but I wouldn't. To me, it's more of a safer play to go with Stroud. And I'm probably starting Stroud over Baker. So that's where I'm at with Stroud. I think he's going to come back and play well. Titans are a good matchup for the quarterback position. They give up the, they're kind of in that mid-tier range. So, and I believe the last time, he wasn't playing the last time. Okay. So I like Stroud this as like a low-end QB1 this week. And for that reason, I like Nico obviously a lot more with Stroud. He's not a must start to me in 2 wide receiver leagues, but in 3 wide receiver leagues he is. He's right in that like Hopkins, T. Higgins kind of range where I'm probably starting him for the most part. The reason why I'm starting him is, are they going to be better than Zay Flowers or Lockett? Maybe not, but the boom potential's there. We've seen Nico Collins, I think, his 3 huge games where it was like 100. He's had 3 games over 150 yards, I believe. And I believe those were all without Tank Dell. And so I don't know how many games. We haven't seen many games with no Tank Dell and CJ Stroud there. Tank Dell got hurt on the December 3rd. Stroud's missed the last 2 games. I think we've only seen 1 week since Dell got hurt of no Dell and CJ Stroud with Nico Collins, but I think all of his 3 big games came when there was no Tank Dell. So I like Nico, especially for the boom potential. Noah Brown, to me, like he's a wide receiver 3 in that range, like with Stroud back. I'd start him over guys like Jacoby Myers, Rashid Shaheed, Gabe Davis, Romeo Dobbs. And, he's in that range. I'd start him over Jaden Reed coming back from an injury. So, like him versus Brandon Cooks, they're kind of the same player in my opinion. Like either one of them could have 20-point games, but they could have like 7-point games as well. So kind of a boom bust wide receiver 3. Don't mind the play though. That's for sure. With Stroud back, that is. And then the running backs, it is a relatively tough matchup here. Let me just double check. I know Singletary 2 weeks ago took over the backfield again. Then back to 44% of the snaps. I don't know. Singletary's tough, man. It's a tough matchup. The Titans are 13th fewest. They're not terrible. They're not like locked down against running backs. They've given up some more points recently. I'll probably start Devin Singletary as like an RB2. I'd throw him in over guys like Achane, Javonte, Najee, Jalen Warren, Gus Edwards. But I'd put him behind guys like Chuba, Montgomery, Connor. I'd probably put him behind Clyde if Clyde plays. Just because they could just roll Dameon Pierce out there more. He returned a big kick for a touchdown. Maybe they want to give him the ball. It's just hard to know. And they might just throw the hell out of the ball with CJ Stroud back. So that's where I'd rank him. Low-end RB2, maybe slightly outside of it. Other than that, Dalton Schultz, I'm fine with starting. To me, he's like a low-end tight end 1 with Stroud back. So if he's my guy, I'm starting him. So we'll move on from that game into the Rams at the Giants. Rams are favored by 5.5, which is a little strange. I thought it'd be a little bit more. Over-under is 43. On the Rams side of things, I already talked about Stafford. He's a pretty good, like a top 8 quarterback for me this week. He's been playing really, really well. This is a pretty good matchup. Kyren Williams is must start. Puka and Cooper Kupp are must starts. Both of them. Demarcus Robinson's interesting to me. Like it's all touchdowns, but he's getting them. And so like it coincides with Stafford's been throwing more touchdowns as well. So if you're deciding between like Demarcus Robinson or Demario Douglas or Josh Downs or Romeo Doubs, I think Demarcus Robinson has much more boom potential. So he's like a boom bust wide receiver 4. And I'd start him over guys like, he's in that, again, he's kind of in that Brandon Cooks, Noah Brown range, and he's just been doing it lately. Now, could he not do it? Easily. Like, could he have a bust game? Very easily. If he doesn't catch a touchdown. He did get 6 for 82 last week, but, I think he's a nice boom bust wide receiver 3-ish 4 maybe. And then Higbee, you're probably not starting Tyler Higbee, so we'll just move on from there. Rams are pretty easy. Giants are also pretty easy. Tyrod Taylor is the quarterback. I like that overall for the offense. Saquon Barkley, I'm going to start, although the Rams have been really, really good against running backs lately. So I am a little concerned that he could have a bad game, but I was also concerned that he could have a bad game last week. And Saquon Barkley just showed you why he's Saquon Barkley. I mean, he gave you 85 total yards and a touchdown with 3 catches. So it's not like he had this huge game, but they want to feed him the ball. They want to give him the ball. I think this offense is going to move the ball better with Tyrod Taylor, and they're going to throw the ball more to him. Tommy DeVito wasn't really throwing the ball. If you look at his catches, 2, 3, 1, 4. So 2, 3, 1 the last 3 weeks. So, but if you look at the Rams, since their bye week 10 was their bye. They played the Seahawks with Zach Charbonnet, less than 10 points. The Arizona guys, James Conner, that is, less than 5.5 points. The Cleveland guys had 18 points total, so between Ford and Hunt. Not crazy, but not terrible. Baltimore, Keaton Mitchell was the highest scorer at 6.7. Washington, Antonio Gibson was the highest scorer at 6. Last week, they shut down Alvin Kamara. They've been really, really, really good against the running backs lately. So I am concerned, but I'm not benching Saquon unless I have 3 guys in the top 9 or something, top 10. That's basically it. I don't really want to start any of these wide receivers, rely on them in my championship game. Darren Waller, he's a low-end tight end 1. Waller's potential, and I believe, so he's had 6 and 5 targets since he's returned, 4 and 2 catches. He's kind of in that range of 4 for 50 tight ends, 4 catches for 50-yard tight ends. He's going to get more playing time. His snap percentage went from 42 to 63 last week. They're probably going to put him in even more. I like Tyrod Taylor more for him. Waller has potential, which those 4 for 50 guys don't. He has potential to be tight end 1, in my opinion. That's, it's Darren Waller. So I like playing him if he's my tight end, and I'd choose him over any waiver wire guy like Everett, Kraft, Pitts, Chigakonkwo, Pat Fryermuth, any of those guys. I'd choose him over. So that's kind of it for that game. The Cardinals, got 2 more games for you. Cardinals, Eagles here. Over under is 48.5. Eagles are favored by 12. We'll start with the Cardinals. I like Kyler Murray. He's like a mid-tier QB1. You should know at this point. James Conner's a little tough one for me. I think he has true boomer bust potential. He's been good the last couple weeks. And 22.6 points, 35.1 points last week. 16.5 last 3 weeks for James Conner. 22.5, 16.5, 19.7. Really, really good the last 3 weeks. And those were against 2 good matchups, the 49ers and the Bears. Bears had a good run defense. He's just been doing it. They've been getting him involved in the passing game more. So it's tough to bench him. I'm just worried, if they get down early, do they use him less? To me, he's in that Chuba Hubbard, Montgomery, James Conner range. So flip a coin between those guys. I'd probably lean Conner over Chuba, but then I'd probably lean Monty over James Conner. So, that's a tough one. But he's an RB2 for the most part. You're going to be starting him if you were starting him last week. Other than that, it's really just Trey McBride here. Marquise Brown's on IR finally. Trey McBride's a top 3 tight end. Don't want to rely on any other pass catchers. So they are easy. Eagles are always pretty easy. I'm starting Hurts. I love Swift this week. against the Cardinals. The Cardinals are gold when it comes to running backs. They give up the most points to fantasy running backs. And you just look at it all year long. Lately, they gave up 18 and a half to Khalil Herbert. They gave up almost 40 to Christian McCaffrey. They gave up 35 to Kyron Williams, almost 19 points to Devin Singletary. So I like Swift this week. Obviously, I love A.J. Brown, and A.J. Brown's like a top 5 guy for me. Devontae Smith is going to be a top 20 guy for me pretty easily. And Goddard is kind of in that Waller range, like low-end tight end 1 that could potentially easily be a top 5 tight end. So starting all those guys. Don't have to spend much time there. They are very easy. So I'm just going to move on. I'm going to make that one an easy one. The Saints at the Bucs is our last matchup here. Saints are favored by 2.5, which is a little interesting on the road as well. Very interesting. Over unders 42. The Saints side of things, I kind of like Carr this week. If you look at Tampa Bay, let me just read you off there what they've given up. 4 point per passing touchdown. They give up the 9th most points to quarterbacks. You look at it all year long, the only guys to not score more than 17 points. And so I always say 17 because like 17, I get 17 points in a 4 point per passing touchdown. I'm really happy. If I get 15, that's kind of like the lowest I'm going to get. So guys to get 17 or more points against them. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So 8 of their 15 matchups have been over 17 points. If you expand that to 15 points, you add 1, 2 more. So 10 of their 15 matchups have been 15 or more points. So the only guys that didn't score well on them was Derek Carr in week 4, which I think he got hurt or something or was hurt. Desmond Ridder didn't. Will Levis in one of his first starts didn't do well. And Bryce Young. So some pretty bad, if you're a bad quarterback, you did poorly. Oh, and if you add last week it was Lawrence who left the game. Beathard came in. They combined, the Jags quarterbacks, for almost 20 points. So if you add that into, that's like 11 of the 15 matchups they've had. 9 of the 15 of 17 or more, 11 of the 15 of 15 or more. So I really like Carr this week. I'd start him over Tua. I'd start him over Minshew, Lawrence, Browning, that group of guys as well. So I kind of like Carr this week if you're streaming quarterbacks. And, if you've been jumping around from Minshew to Browning to whoever else, like I like Carr this week. Obviously, Kamara, I'm always going to start because we know his potential. Down week last week, but starting him. All right, Michael Pittman's playing. Zach Moss is out. I believe, let me just double check this. I believe Olave's playing, right? Just double checking. Olave's been limited. If he plays, I'm starting him, obviously. Shaheed, I kind of like this week as well. He's in that like Noah Brown, Brandon Cooks, Jacoby Myers, Drake London range. Rashid Shaheed is. Obviously, if Olave misses time, I love Rashid Shaheed more. But I kind of like Shaheed. Like if you look at the last 4 games, 9 targets, 5, 4, and 9 targets. So if he's going to give me 9, 10 targets, 7 or more targets, I should say, like against the Bucs, I really like Shaheed this week. He's a low-end wide receiver 3 with that boom potential. So, I believe that's it for the tight ends. Like we kind of probably should move on from Taysom Hill at this point. They're just not, the volume's not there. I know he's returning from injury. Maybe that's part of it, but I don't really want to start him. Juwan Johnson, I don't really want to start either, but I guess it's not a terrible. If Carr's going to play like he has been playing, then I think Shaheed, Juwan Johnson, and Olave could all have good games. You look at Juwan Johnson last week, 4 for 48 and a touchdown. The week before, 2 for 38 and a touchdown. So, if you're banking on a touchdown, he might not be a terrible one to play. On the Bucs side of things, I like Baker this week. He's been playing really, really well. Baker Mayfield is, on the season, the QB 11. The QB 11. He's averaging 17.3 points a game. He's had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 games under 15 points. One of those was 14 and a half. He's had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 games of 17 or more. So he's basically going to give you 17 or more or less than 15. That's kind of where he falls. But if you look at him recently, since the bye week, he had a dud in week 10. Since week 11, 30, no, sorry. Since week 7, he's been really good. He's had 1, 2 dud games in there. So last 3 weeks, he's been really, really good. I like Baker Mayfield as a low-end QB1. Rachaad White is an obvious must start. Mike Evans is a must start. Chris Godwin, to me, in 3 wide receiver leagues, you're starting. He's producing. He's producing. The last 2 weeks, he has produced 6 for 68. You'll take. Sorry, 6 for 78. You'll take. And you look at obviously, he had his big 10 for 155. You look at the last 3 weeks, though, he's had double-digit targets each of the last 3 weeks. So you got to bank on the target there. There seem to be funneling it between Evans and Godwin and Rachaad White. So those 3 guys are must starts, and that's basically it for the Bucs. So that's it for this video. We'll be back. We got another update. Tavian Wicks isn't probably not going to play. That's all I have for you guys. As always, like and subscribe. We'll catch you guys